Hi everyone, I'm Tomek. I'm software engineering manager at Swedish company called Seamless Payments. It is a Swedish company, but the whole software engineering department is in Łódź, Poland. Apart from that, I'm IT coach at a Polish company called Sages, and I collect some titles in the meantime. Okay, I will be talking about building DevOps teams or in non-DevOps organizations. But before doing that, let me tell you a bit about our product, because it's pretty important for the context of my talk. We are doing our own mobile payment system, and we are questioning the way payments are done nowadays using credit cards and debit cards. We bypass the card rails, integrate directly with bank accounts, and allow people to pay with their mobile phone in physical stores and online. We exist in 10 countries, mostly in Eurozone, not in Poland, unfortunately. Soon we are entering UK and US, which puts us on a completely different level in terms of operations, in terms of customer base. And it's pretty important, as I said, from the context of my speech later on. Okay, I would like to talk about three things. First one is, why do we need DevOps? Because I hope that each of you will agree that DevOps is a buzzword. And like any tool, you have to understand which problems you are trying to solve, because it is not a silver bullet, apparently. The second one, symptoms of problems, which perhaps can be a good reason to try using DevOps in your organization. And the third problem, how you should build environments supporting DevOps culture, or DevOps ideology, depending on your dictionary. Okay, so I'm going to focus now on the first part, which is why do we need DevOps? All right. So during my 8 years in IT industry, I had a chance to see different companies, especially big banks, which do deployments twice a year. And this process is like, they do it twice a year. The whole company is paralyzed like 2 weeks before the deployment. It's done at night, there is a major downtime. So whenever there is a change is needed, it paralyzes the whole company. So if weather changes in terms of Formula 1 race, if you want to change your tires, it will take like 50 seconds. I don't know what's your experience in terms of your products or business you run, but anyway, it's just unacceptable, I guess. And very often these companies even don't realize this because the competition also doesn't do this. But as soon as the first bank will eventually do the other way of working and be able to deploy like every week, every second week, or every half a week, then suddenly any ideology, any philosophical discussions will be away because just some bank will be faster. And as I said, on the other hand, there are other companies like Amazon, which does like deployment every 12 seconds. So I don't know if you see where I'm going with this. There's like companies which do deployments like twice a year and every 12 seconds. And they're goddamn fast. And we can learn a lot from those companies. And trying to figure out how they achieve this is the key to success. And as you can see, they change tires in like 2 seconds. And this gives them really advantage on the market. And by making this analogy and the context of our product, we realized that awesome products are not only based on great ideas. For instance, our company, can you hear the sound? Okay. Our company, our main competitors globally is Apple Pay. Samsung is doing their own mobile payments. So we cannot compete in terms of money with those companies. The only way we can compete is elasticity, is making the right choices and making the right decisions and being able to adapt really fast. And this is what we realized in our business, that it's not only to have a great product which delights your customer, it's not only based on great ideas, but also based on ability to change direction fast and implement new ideas seamlessly. So that's the reason we decided to experiment with DevOps. Okay, so now the symptoms. Maybe you can find those symptoms in your company. So let's check it out. First of all, we versus they. I don't know if you had experienced this, but it is the ops or the sysadmins who screw it up on the production environment. Or ops say that, okay, this is dev people who wrote it the wrong way. And actually, yeah, it can be summarized with this pretty popular meme that it's ops problem, it worked fine on dev. And if you dig down deeper the problem, you will realize that that usually comes from responsibility misalignment. Because ops and dev people, they just have different responsibilities. And lately I had a chance to talk with a team who developed a feature. I asked them, is it deployed on staging so that we could integrate with this and just do some checking? And the response I got was like, hey, it's not our responsibility. I was like, come on, we are working in the same company. Our main goal is to delight our customers. You develop the feature, you should like put it on production. I should be responsible for that. So let's go even deeper. Handovers. The responsibility misalignment may result from handovers. What is a handover? Yeah. For instance, when someone writes a requirement and passes on to the development team. When the development team develops something and passes it on for tests. Testers pass it on for staging environment to some configuration management team. And then it is passed on to production environment for the maintenance team. These are handovers. And the problem with handovers is that usually there is, with each handover, there is some information missing, there is some clarity missing, and there is some context missing. And that's pretty what we expected as well. And I had a chance to work in a company or work with a company who had this setup that they had development team, test team, maintenance team, and they even squeezed in configuration management team. And there were walls between those, communication walls between those teams. The work was passed from one team to another. Actually, as I said, these were separate teams. And what's more, they had separate bosses. What was the result of that? Pretty obviously, all those teams had different goals, were accounting for different things. Like, for instance, dev team was accounted for throughput, so trying to put as many new features as possible, whereas maintenance team was accounted for stability. So how are you expected to have a system working pretty well if you have teams just being accounted for different stuff? And actually, if you know Edward Deming, he's a creator of Total Quality Management. He said pretty good things, or pretty accurate things, regarding those systems we usually work in. And what he said is that 95% of his problems, it's not connected with people doing the job, but with the system. So the problem is with the management. What's more, a good person will be always beaten by a bad system. And usually the problem is at the top with the management. So you should start with the system and let people do their work best and not create systems which just prevent them from doing best. Of course, there are people which are more aware and they try to fight the system just by doing their job even better, understanding where there are communication problems, for instance. But still, the system doesn't support them in this. It becomes a barrier for them. Okay, so these were handovers. Let's move on. Another symptom that something is wrong is like infrequent and long deployments. And that's also pretty obvious. If you do deployments like once every 6 months, come on, your business or your company doesn't have possibility to change direction, especially in banking industry, where banks are competing in terms of loans or I don't know, debit cards, credit cards, you name it. The company which does it faster will be just far ahead of the competition. And I very like and approve of the statement by Jess Humble that if something hurts, you should do it more often and make the pain transparent and it's visible for the rest of the company. Why is that? Because if you try to make deployments like every week, then the delta is small. So you're immediately decreasing the risk of a deployment, decreasing the risk of regressions, and you have a small delta, which causes the pain less, right? But more frequent, of course. But it's much easier, I guess, intuitively. I bet you feel it, that it's better to just make small steps instead of like one big, large step. Okay, so these were the symptoms. Now let's move to the main part, which will take time till the end of my speech, which is how to build environments supporting DevOps. We named the beast, and now we have to fight the beast. So let's do it. Okay, for proper understanding, I need to tell you how it all started in our company. It will be a bit of success story, but also a bit of failures as well. Let's do it. Okay, so the original setup in our company resulting from legacy times was that there was a dev team consisting of 40 developers around. There was a rollout team consisting of QA and ops people, and there was an ops team consisting of like, I don't know, 10 or 15 people. These were sysadmins. And like described in the symptoms, there were walls between those teams, communication walls, cooperation walls. Dev team was responsible for development environment, rollout for staging, and maintenance for, or ops for production environment. And of course, work was passed. There were separate bosses, one for the dev silo, the other one for rollout team and for production team. So by definition, according to me, the system was wrong. And it's still wrong because we still didn't manage to transform, but we are on the right track, I guess. And at some point in time, I was lucky to be part of the new team, which was responsible for building services on top of the core product. Because the original dev team was responsible for the core product, we started becoming responsible for added services. And unintentionally or intentionally, we were said that we are not given any rollout team and any maintenance team or any ops team, which appeared to be very good decision, even though made unintentionally. Because we had to take care of everything on our own. So we had to take the business requirements, analyze it, do the development, testing, design the deployment, and then maintain it on our own. So suddenly the perspective changed. And we have to deal with this. So there was us, initially 5 people. And at some point in time, we started feeling lack of person or sysadmin expert. We used Elastic Beanstalk from Amazon. It was a pretty nice airbag for us for some basic sysadmin problems. But we started to feel that, okay, we cannot do like this anymore because we can, of course, become experts in infrastructure, security, and all that stuff, but it will take us more time just trying to get that person from the other team. And the question was how to get the ops person to our team, especially that our manager was a different manager than for the guy in the ops team. So that was pretty a challenge. And you can do it the Frank Underwood way in your company. But luckily, this is not my company. So we could do it the other way around. Because I know that Agile and Scrum is a buzzword, but I believe that we are an Agile company, and one of the values we believe in is transparency and just asking for help. So we said, okay, for us to be fully effective, we just need someone for help regarding sysadmin stuff. So we started asking for these guys, and manager of the ops silo was able to assign such a person for us. Not full-time, unfortunately, initially, but it was a good way, or we were heading towards the ultimate goal, which was a DevOps team. We started to engage those guys. We started to empower this guy because he was an expert. And we made it, our goal was to make his engagement transparent to the whole company. Everyone saw that this person is working with us, is making really good decisions. I will talk about them later on. But it was transparent for everyone, including the management in our company. And it appeared that, first of all, the sysadmin, he was needed for more or less 60 or 80% of our time. If you read about queuing theory or understand Kanban, you would most probably realize that context switching in such a situation may be pointless. because context switching every time causes some loss of time. You cannot just context switch between tasks without loss of engagement and loss of time. So it became pretty apparent that context switching is pointless in such a situation, and maybe it's better to have this person full-time in your team. What we promised and proved by our actions to the ops manager is that we take full responsibility for the deployment, because there is no rollout team, and we take full responsibility for production maintenance and just taking care of the production environment. And it was a pretty good deal for both sides, I mean, for us and the ops manager, because it just, it's a win-win situation. We can work the way we would like to work, and he just has one problem, not bothering him anymore. And apart from that, sysadmin, or the role of sysadmin is that, even developers need a hero. So we needed one for us developers. Okay. So in the meantime, we grew to like 10 people, but there are some buts, of course. I'm talking about our experience with a sysadmin person joining a Scrum team, which by definition should be cross-functional. But the problem with sysadmins is that the first question or the first problem which arose was like, is that person product-oriented? Because the way usually sysadmins works in a company is that they have a backlog of tasks. They just take a task from the top, they work on it, push it forward, and it's done. Usually those tasks are assigned by some manager, which I disapprove of, or in the best case scenario, there's a Kanban process for that. But anyway, very seldom do I meet sysadmins who are product-oriented. The other thing is communication skills. Usually sysadmins, or this may be only my experience, they don't work in teams. So usually they solve problems on their own or in a small group of people, but we saw problems of like for sysadmins to suddenly become a part of a Scrum team and suddenly think about the value they deliver from the very beginning to the very end. Not only this part responsible for deployment and maintenance. And the other thing is diversified experience. There is lots of discussion about hiring DevOps people, which I personally disagree with, because it's just like with Scala developers. You can try to find one, or you can hire a promising Java developer and just teach him Scala. And the same goes for, I believe, for people for DevOps. All of them have different background. It's just about you or the company or the organization which creates environment for gaining diversified experience. As an example, for instance, if a sysadmin joins a development team, one of the most common anti-patterns of DevOps is that this sysadmin becomes a slave for the development team to do infrastructure stuff. Then it is just a ops guy in development team, which is bad, because nothing changes actually. The development team just had a slave. So the key thing is about the diversified experience is to just create proper environment where the knowledge can be shared. I will talk about this later on. Okay. The outcomes, which perhaps can be used by you to convince other people in your organization to start doing DevOps, the way we understand this. I will talk about technical outcomes, then business outcomes, and cultural outcomes in the organization. Let's focus on technical at the moment. First of all, what we realized was proactive monitoring. Because suddenly the whole team was responsible for the end-to-end process, we figure out that, okay, let's not wait till our customer calls us and tells us that something is wrong. Let's try to write our service in a way that maybe we can learn about a failure before any customer realizes that. And partially we're able to achieve this. Of course, there is still work to be done in this area, but the mindset change was really revolutionary. We started using, for instance, Nagios. It's a pretty popular tool for systems, but we are really trying to be faster than our consumers or our customers in finding out that there is an error on production environment. What is more, because we are running multiple instances environments, just developers realized that troubleshooting is pretty troublesome. So together with sysadmin, we set up Logstash, Kibana, to be able to gather all the stuff which is happening on our servers in one place. Because otherwise, especially with our services, they are built, they are stateless. So if you have some business flow, each HTTP request can go to other machine. So it would be pretty stupid to SSH to each of the machines and try to find the part of the logs you have on your of this flow, right? So usually developers, if they don't interact with production environment, they just don't realize that problems. At least according to our experience. Automated infrastructure. As you probably noticed, we are running on Amazon. So we found out that setting up infrastructure, so I mean, in our case, Elastic Beanstalks, RDS, some load balancers, security groups, initially it was done, manually. And we very fast we realized as the whole team that it just takes too much time. So we employed CloudFormation for automating infrastructure. And apart from cutting down the time required for infrastructure setup, at the same time, what we gained was that staging environment and development environment were the same. So we were able to find problems. I don't know what is your experience, but at least, especially mine in previous company, that some problems were found only on production because of the specific setup. With automated infrastructure, apart from, as I said, doing it faster, we were just able to have exact copies of environments for our own purposes. So the quality improved. Continuous deployment. We decided to go to this, green-blue deployment. So deployment process was like we created a mirror of production. We upgraded the mirror. Only trusted users were directed to the new environment, like employees, for instance. They were checking if everything works, and if everything worked fine, the decision was made to switch the whole traffic to the new environment, keeping the old one for some time in case of a major failure, just to switch the traffic back to the old environment in case of the failure. And in this case, the decision was made by a team just to automate or make the continuous deployment in Bash and Python scripts, just to be able to set up this, to support this blue-green deployment. Which resulted in, first of all, we were able to do deployments during the day with no stress and no staying at night. It became just as any ordinary process, like setting up environment. And just everyone felt that this is just a routine which happens during the day. Of course, the decision was made that we shouldn't do it on Fridays or Thursdays because there is a weekend ahead, so we should aim for Mondays or Tuesdays. But anyway, we just felt the difference. Another thing which is not that obvious is that when you have developers, QAs, and sysadmins in one team, there is lots and lots of this kind of discussions from which everyone benefits. And if you think about your team having, or people having different skills in this team, like dev, QA, sysadmin, UX, and for instance, business skills, you will realize that by those discussions, suddenly people become, it's like T-shaped. But there's your major specialization and you have a solid background of other skills. It's really hard for a QA person to become a developer or for a sysadmin to become developer or the other way around. But for sure, such a setup increases awareness of other important skills within the team, especially when someone is ill or just quit the job and someone new enters the team. But I will get back to this. Anyway, what we started realizing is that by such a setup, suddenly the roles, they start diminishing a bit. And maybe at some time in future, we will just call ourselves product developers. Which is actually pretty fine or pretty good because we pay attention to the goal, which is a product, and not to your experience, which is like sysadmin, developer, or QA. Of course, you will have your specialty still, but this is also a mindset change in the company. Okay, the other thing is system thinking and strategic activities. At least in our setup, majority of people are developers. In minority, there are QA people and sysadmins. So, as I said, one of the most common anti-patterns is that sysadmin is a kind of servant in terms of infrastructure and maintenance to the development team. And if you try to solve this problem in a system way, and we try to do it, is that QA people and sysadmin people, because of being in minority, their goal is to be a kind of a coach in the areas in which they are experts. What does it mean? It means that if the culture in the company supports such a setup, it means that developers, they are able to test their code, and they are able to, for instance, deploy their code, just like that. What does it mean for QA people and for sysadmins? It means that they can focus not on basic operational stuff, which can be handled by developers, but on strategic stuff. In case of QA, this is like automated tests, and in case of sysadmin, automated infrastructure, continuous deployment, you name it. So this was the technical implications, or these were the technical implications of our setup. Now let's move on to business implications and how to talk with business, or what DevOps setup can give them. So, the measures. First of all, deployment frequency. So it became apparent for our business department or product management that by the fact that we increased the frequency of deployments, we let them change business directions pretty fast. Usually, the way we work is that every time a sprint finishes, which takes, in our case, 2 weeks, what we have is potentially releasable. So it's only up to our business or product management to make a decision if it should enter the production, or this new feature should enter the production or not. The other thing is lead time for changes. As I told you, because we are competing with really major companies, and apart from that, the mobile payments market worldwide, or even in different countries or inside EU, it's not regulated by law. And most probably it will be regulated by law, and most probably competition will invent something new. And the time needed from the idea which is generated in our company up to a moment it is on production is really crucial. Just like with this Formula 1 team changing tires really fast. By DevOps setup, we were able to minimize time of everything which could be automated, which is automated infrastructure, continuous deployment, automated tests. That is the one thing we are missing still at the moment. But we are able to diminish all the stuff which can be automated and prolong time spent on actual development and delivering value, business value. So this meant that we could tell the business that, okay, the basic functionality we can deliver in 1 sprint or 2 sprints. But I will also get back to this. And the other thing was like mean time to recover from failure. Because of proactive monitoring, because of logging, like accumulating all the logs, in some cases we were able to find problems in production before any customer could find it, and able to react. Unfortunately, still manually. I heard that Google is able to react to problems automatically. So apart from diagnosing them automatically, they fix them automatically. We are not Google yet, but let's hope we'll make it. Okay, these are the measures for business. The other thing is, because we are a disruptive, or we create a disruptive technology in terms of payments, we try to do the lean start, or work the lean startup way. I will now simplify it only to MVP for the sake of the presentation. But yeah, we try to develop new features as minimum viable products. If you think about traditional product development, usually companies, they plan or design for like a week or a month or whatever. Then there is the development phase of several months. Then they deploy it on production, release to customers, and it appears that customers don't like it. And it appears that after 5 months, just 5 months of work is wasted. The other approach with MVP is that from Lean Startup, let's define the smallest possible set of features which brings value to the customer. Let's just do it, and let's release it to our customers. And this is actually what we did with one of our systems, that the front-end part was developed like it looked really fine. There was no back office system. And people were able to buy products from campaigns, but those campaigns were entered as SQL scripts to the database. Why so? Because we decided that it's pointless to develop a back office system for your product if the idea is not accepted by the consumers. And it would be just a loss of time. And we got a promise from product management that there won't be much campaigns initially. Let's just check how it works. And if your problem failed, or if your idea fails, you have time to pivot and to develop another MVP. It can fail as well. Maybe for the third time, it will got friction, and then from your customers, not only from the top of your head, you get a proof from your customers that they like it, and you can start working on your product and developing the missing features. And this is actually, as I said, what we did. Intentionally, we just drop off the back office part, and we're able to just manually insert via SQL inserts stuff to the database. And why I'm talking about this in terms of DevOps? Because as I said, DevOps limits or somehow emphasizes the fact for automation, which means that more time can be spent on development, which is bringing value to the end user. And as a side effect of this was that our relationship with product management changed, because they realized that we are sharing the same goal with them, so they started treating us as their partner and not just as a, part of an organization which just supports them. So they started calling us and ask about what do we think about this, how does it go along with our plans. It became a really partnership relationship. And I found this description in DevOps report from 2014 that high-performing organizations, they work this way, which was like just confirmed our observations. Okay. Now, I think the most important part, which is culture. Why I think it's culture? Because very often people think about DevOps as microservices or as continuous deployment or Chef or Puppet. And if there is no values behind this or no understanding by the people in your company or no part of culture of a company, it's just another tool. And if, team lead changes or people change or management change, they will just stop using it. But if you're able to sustain a culture supporting this way of working, maybe there are higher chances to just obtain this or sustain this. So let's talk about behaviors. There's some definition behind me, but generally behaviors is a set of actions made by people, all of the people in the company. And if you are a manager or director or team lead, don't think that you can impose a culture on anyone. Of course, people can behave or obey to your instructions, but as soon as you leave, they will get back to what they truly believe. So the key thing is to understand the process and try to make it visible for people what brings value to them. And Dave Snowden, he made a pretty decent research on behaviors of people in an organization. And actually, one of the biggest factors which influence people behavior and culture are limitations. The amount of freedom you are given in your company or the frame you are given by your company defines your behavior. So if you have a frame, you can paint a picture inside the frame the way you want. You can have this frame or you can have that frame. It depends on the organization and on managers, usually. And if you think about our situation, actually, the fact our team was created inside the organization the limitations on our team were removed. The limitation wasn't only development environment, but we had the whole process. And it resulted in what Dave Snowden says is a cultural bubble or cultural pocket. Suddenly, inside the company, there is a different culture being created. And I can tell you that it has good sides and bad sides. The good sides is that we are able to do something new, experiments on new ideas. But the downside is that the rest of the company sees it, and very often they have negative feelings about this, because you become standing out from the other part of the company. And the key thing about culture bubble is that it's fragile. What does it mean? I can give you some examples. At some point in time, we are feeling that we need another person with being a sysadmin expert. And ops manager offered us a deal saying that I can give you a sysadmin expert for 50% of his time. And me being responsible for the team, I said that, okay, so we will handle on our own, because it will just destroy our culture if there is 10 people being part of the team and one person being like half a member of the team. And it just meant that we had to deal with the problem on our own, which is pretty fine. The other thing about fragility of cultural bubble is, for instance, when there were some hard times in the core system, the teams from the core system, they started questioning our existence and saying why we couldn't start fixing problems which are in the backend, which for them was actually an answer to their problem. But if you try to think in a system way, this is just a threat to the culture of something which is happening in the company. And the key thing was, because for me, company goals are more important than team goals, but I was believing that we are doing something more. We are making an experiment for the whole company and aiming towards introducing DevOps in the whole company in the way we were able to experiment this. And the key thing about our team was that we were working with something simpler with the core product. We didn't have all this legacy past behind us. We were able to define our culture. We were able to define the way we work. And we were able to prove that it works in micro scale in the company. And if you think about change management, which is, as a topic, extremely big, and there are separate conferences about change management, seldom did I hear about companies which were able to perform a change without a success story inside of it. So by this setup, which originally was unintentional, we were somehow able to prove that some ideas appear to be successful. And now the key thing is about how to transform these ideas in micro scale in your company to a bigger scale in your company. And I have a disclaimer for, I'm also responsible for the setup, of course, in our company. But I have a disclaimer for my company and for you as attendees of this conference. And it applies, I think, to any talk on a conference. And very often when I speak at conferences, people approach me and ask me about tools. And very often I refuse to answer the question about tools because it's just wrong. What I mean by tools? Perhaps you could just think about DevOps just as throwing ops to a team, which is generally underestimation of the whole DevOps ideology or culture. You could just think that, okay, I know companies which use Amazon Web Services and it solves their problems. It doesn't solve your problems. You don't know this because you have to understand the context in which it helped in our case, but may not help in your case. Other things like developers doing infrastructure, this may not work in your company. So what you should think about is understanding ideas behind a given talk or behind a given problem and try copying them. What does it mean in case of my talk? Try to limit handovers. Because as I said, there is at every handover, you lose information, context, and clarity. Take care of information flow inside your company. There are some walls between teams, or actually those teams shouldn't be as separate teams. They should maybe be one team. Take care of information flow. Provide trust to your people. Make it safe for them to fail and learn from this. Otherwise, you cannot expect people that they will be able to, I don't know, innovate or improve your organization if you won't make it safe to fail. I doubt if there are experts who will tell you you should do this and you will just improve. It's usually the people in your organization who know your company best. Let them choose their tools, because they are the experts and they know best what tools they should use to solve certain problems. Empower them and automate painful things, for instance. And basically, that's the outcome of my message, or that's the message from my talk. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Whoa. No one. Okay. So maybe not publicly, but I don't know, at the party you can just approach me and just tell if you disagreed or agreed, or if it's completely abstract, or just, yeah. Thank you very much.